alternative location. We haven't got any update on St John's building for quite some long period of time, and that paragraph would tend to suggest there has been some progress made on the matter.
My understanding is that progress is ongoing. Mr. Jorgensen, do you have anything to add in relation to that?
Yeah, I believe that St John's are looking to proceed with the site at Omar Park in the relatively near future, but they're just taking their final kind of internal approvals to proceed with that site and to confirm that's where they wish to go.
Okay.
Thank you for that advice.
Right. So I'd like to move to receive the report. Councillor Tavendale, second Councillor Holding. Those in favour say aye. And against? It's carried. Thank you. Just note that the live streaming has commenced, so apologies to anyone who was waiting for that to happen. But, it is now. We are now live. Okay, we hope.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Would viewers like to see your sword swallowing again?
No, sore throat from last time. Anyway, we're going to move on. We now have representatives from the Resource Recovery Trust here, so just invite them to come forward to talk to their to the report on the trust's funding, 6 on page 104. So just welcome to the chamber, everyone. Welcome.
80th year, Mr. Mayor, here. Thank you for inviting us around here. We were here probably just after your local body elections last year, and you kindly gave us 100,000 to redevelop our yard, and you agreed to 2 monthly payments for our grant rather than quarterly. I'm pleased to say that we've completed the redevelopment of the yard. It cost 60,000 of the 100, and we'll be happy to invite you people around in February to have a look around and see where we've spent our money. But we think it's well laid out, and we've had some very good response from public about it. So where are we today? What's happened in the recycle scene, as you well know? In 2018, with the China effect, we took a shock of between 200 to 250,000 annually for the last 2 years, loss of income. So the most important thing today is that we're seeing a recovery. Our cardboard price now, for which we produce or supply about 100 tonne annually, dropped to $10 to $20 a tonne. We're now receiving $90 a tonne. And the paper price that we couldn't sell, in fact, if we did keep receiving paper, we would have been paying a bill of $20 a tonne to get rid of it. We have now got a new contract and the price is $120 a tonne. And we're receiving a lot more plastics, the grades of plastics, than we were 2 years ago. So we also, one of our biggest buyers, cardboard, has told us that there are a number of large mills being built in Indonesia that will come on flow late 2021, 22. So that gives us confidence that what we're seeing in the cardboard and paper industry right now and the improvement in our prices may be here to stay. So if we can maintain the $90 to $100 a tonne for cardboard and the paper price and the plastics recovery, we think we'll go a long way to recovering the 200,000 that we lost from the China effect in 2018. But our challenge is just to give us insurance to get to that time. And our request is really to see if council are prepared to extend to pay our quarterly grant 2 monthly again until June 2021. Now, this is really just an insurance for us. Our cash position at the moment is reasonable. It's just an insurance policy to give us confidence with the staffing levels that we've got to get us through to that figure, to the June 2021. And if we get to March, April, and we think we're tracking well, we will not invoice council for the increased money. The increased money will work out 60,000 if it commenced from January. We are looking at controlling our own costs. We've been really rigid, the trustees, on costs, and we're budgeting on reducing our wages by 50,000 this year. And it's a difficult task to reduce the wages at a place like the Recovery Park because we've got a lot of labour intensive work. But what we intend to do on the short term is if we need extra staff, we'll work with Workbridge or the other organisations and get short-term staff on subsidies to get us by. There's quite a lot of new initiatives we're trying to develop, and Jeff Brown with his history in the building construction industry, and Dick's very keen on it as well. We're trying to get up solutions for the construction industry in Oamaru. Working on how we can provide something on site that they could bring back and we could sell their recyclables. So there's a lot of good things happening there, but it's a very challenging business because the world's collapsed in recycling. But I'm pleased to say that we are seeing some recovery, and I wouldn't be prepared to sit here today to ask for this request on a 2-monthly basis if I didn't think there was going to be a turnaround. But I can see now that it looks like we may well recover. So our request is simply to have our quarterly instalment that expired in September reinstated to 2-monthly until June 2021.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vandersbeek, do you want to speak to the report itself?
No, I don't think I have anything to add, so I'll just have the read based on his comments. Thank you.
Right, councillors, any questions? Councillor McRoby.
Thank you. Thank you very much for presenting for the increased revenue. It's on your cash flow on our pages number 110. But looking at the next column, it's showing a minus of 375, and I'm just wondering, is this up to date in terms of what you just said in terms of change in pricing, or are you actually genuinely expecting a loss of 370?
No, that was done prior to the recovery in the cardboard price, and it was done prior to having any market for paper. So if we updated it today, we're not budgeting on that sort of loss at all.
I'd be keen to see
Yeah, yes, we'll do that. Yep.
Do you, as you progress through the year, do you reforecast your cash flow?
We do, and we do monthly figures every month. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Yeah, a question for the trust and also perhaps for Paul or Eric. Just noticing again in those figures that as of the moment, you're actually earning almost as much from the charges for people to deposit rubbish as you are from the income that you, if you look at the November figures, I think it's about 9 grand from recycling and 7 for payments. And you add that plus the refuse disposal charges that you're making or earning. They're earning more than you're getting from recycling at the moment, which just shows how dire the situation that you're talking about is. But I'm trying to work out, you mentioned that you want to reduce wages by 50,000, and yet in your figures, your budget figures on 109, payroll is shown consistently through next year as 50,000.
Yeah, well,
so I'm trying to work.
But the gross figure is we're reducing 50,000 from our yearly figure. The budget figure monthly is 50,000, but for last year. But so if it was 600,000, the wages were more than 600,000 last year. So we've knocked 50,000.
Okay,
yeah.
right. Yes, so that's 50,000 a month. Right. Yes,
and to answer your question on the recyclables, we put our charge up from $1 to $2 for recyclables. The problem we have with waste, and it's always been a lost leader for us, that if we charge too much, we charge $7 for a little sack of rubbish now. If we charge too much, we'd see more illegal dumping. And so we've always lost 20,000 from what it costs waste management, the cartage and Whitestone Roading to get rid of our refuge. But on the flip side of that, if we didn't have the refuge facility, we wouldn't have the people bringing recyclables.
okay. My other question, whether it's for the trust or for officers, on page 105, you say at the bottom, for 2021, Wes is requesting up to 6 payments of 60,000 council, totaling 360,000. And I think we're paying you about 300 now. So that's an increase of 60. And yet the recommendation says that they're asking for an additional 120,000.
No, we don't want it backdated to the till when it expired. We're looking for the 2 monthly payments.
So
We're happy if they start in January and go through till June.
So we should change that number then, is that the case?
Happy with that?
So we reduce it from 120,000 to an extra 60,000.
Yeah, that's right.
So roughly 300.
Mm.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yep.
Total amounts that they're
Yeah.
getting,
So,
yeah.
if I may, Mr. Chair, to clarify, there are currently 4 payments of 60,000 each, for a total of 240,000. In the budget for this year is 300,000, which is the 240 plus the remaining 60,000 for the redevelopment works.
So the normal budget for WERT is $240,000 a year by 4 $60,000 payments. There's a $40,000 cost for the lease of the premise, which the waste management activity pays towards the property activity.
Right.
And then there's a $10,000 a year payment also paid to do site maintenance. So that's what the normal payment to WERT is. I understand in our budgets last year that we allowed for $300,000 as a payment to WERT instead of $240,000, but as we could anticipate that there was going to be some additional payments required to WERT in this financial year, which has come to fruition. So what we're saying is we did have $300,000 to pay the operating grant, so that would have been 5 payments to WERT. Where we're at now is we're just seeking 6 payments instead of 5. However, we were only paying 4 payments, if you like. So we'd had allowed an additional amount in the previous annual plan for an additional payment. So you're both right. It is the effect on our budget is an additional 60,000. However, what's been asked for is an additional 120. So
We've just been told it wasn't. But that's dating.
We don't need it backdated. We would be happy just to take it from the 1st of January through to the 30th of June.
The original request was 420.
Yes, it was to reinstate the old, but we came through the lockdown and we claimed all the subsidies. And we still have the support of the council as well. So we've managed the situation very well and our cash position is okay now, but we just want this insurance for the next 6 months to get us there.
So it is 60,000.
Yes.
The next 6 months.
Okay.
So
it's two additional payments of 60.
That's
of
right.
60,000.
Got Councillor
It's not,
Taylor,
is it?
Councillor Percival, Councillor
is
Walker.
it? Is it? It's 120. I'm confused.
Do we not see any part of that anymore? Or do we have? How does that work?
So the waste levy is a different account that isn't available, as I understand it, to pay for operational activities.
What's the waste levy for?
So we budget that for other activities. Yeah. So, sorry, I can't tell exactly what it's paid for, but it covers like our education. I think it's some of the Enviro Schools program, things like that. Covers is funded from that waste levy. The good news with Mr. Steve Clark starting with us as of Monday is one of his tasks is actually to look at how we're using the waste levy and how that can be optimised moving forward. As you know, we've had quite a deficiency in the strategic space in waste management for some time, and he will be able to give us a lot more advice and guidance about how we can better use that money moving forward. As of this particular funding here, my understanding is that that can't be used for this type of activity.
So essentially this is an underwrite.
Correct.
Is the way
Which is quite nice to be in a proactive space. Often when we've come up before, it's been in we've sort of been in quite a dire position, and to fund it, so really appreciate work coming forward at this time to enable to put a mechanism in place that may be needed but may not be as well.
yeah, really appreciate that. And it's fantastic the work that's been done to just wonder whether the way we've got it set up is really indicating an underwrite by as much as we anticipate. I wonder whether it could be put slightly differently in the fact that this isn't really showing us that this is an underwrite, it's just up to this much, and I gather that obviously you're not going to invoice it if not be, if indeed not be, but whether we can make it clear at our end, because it's for, you know, our interest, that it's an underwrite rather than
My understanding is we would seek the first payment of the.
We'd seek the first payment and then we will invite you around in February and have a look around the yard, and we'll have a bit of a workshop there and discuss it and show you what our cash position is there, and then we'll make a decision whether we claim the rest of the money from there or how things are going.
Thank you. Councillor Percival?
Yeah, firstly, just to recognise all the work you do and the importance of operation to the community. All these figures being banded around and dollar signs and everything, quite confusing. Even the report we've received is quite confusing. It doesn't seem to cover all the points. The bottom line is that you want, or you would like, a quarterly payment of 90,000 against the 60 that you're receiving now, minus the 60,000 development.
No, the 60,000 development grant's been spent.
Right.
And of originally this time last year, we approved 100, we only spent 60.
What you want is quarterly payments of 90,000, but you did say before that you would not draw down if your financial situation was improving.
Yeah.
You said that before. So if you actually, when you're invoicing us for that 90 grand, if you do improve with the new manager coming, etc., different Jack here and goodness knows what, if it does improve, then you will not invoice us for 90, you go back to 60. Am I understanding?
Effectively, what we've had in the past is 4 payments of 40,000.
Yes.
This time last year, we came here and said, would the council agree to give us the 60,000, but pay it every 2 months? So effectively, you gave us last year 120,000 extra that expired in September. So what we're looking for now is not to backdate it to September, but just take it from January to June, 60,000 paid 2 monthly. So it's an extra 60,000, the 240. No, that's including part of the 240, but not pay it quarterly, pay it 2 monthly. It just,
Can we just work on annual figures? Because I
Yeah.
think it's really making things difficult.
Yeah.
Actually talking annual figures for one thing, but these.
so the annual figure we had last year with the extra grant from you folk was 360,000.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for it now and starting it in January, we're looking for an annual grant of 300 in round figures.
Thank you.
That takes it from the 240 to the,
Basically, it's
yeah.
going to be over the 6 month period, or over the year, let's keep it at that, it'll be 60,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is still less than what we ended up paying.
If we,
Income, you're not going to draw down.
So that's different from the resolution then, because the resolution moment says 100 additional 120.
yeah, that was for the full year. So we're trying to be fair to council and fair to ourselves. We don't have any joy coming here asking for money, but we have a responsibility to the community to make sure we operate efficiently, that we keep our staff, and to do that, we're looking for this insurance policy to get us through to June.
We certainly appreciate that approach that, just because we say you can have this much, that you are working on the basis, you use what you need, because you don't use the rest. So that's appreciated.
Yeah.
Councillor Alden, next.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Neville. And just a question on your sales here. You used to have an operation selling compost, which I think from memory made a really good profit for
Mulch.
Compost is a problem because we've tried to rectify our near neighbour and his complaints with smell and noise, and we've taken through our own funding the glass way down to the back by the dog pound to stop the noise. And the compost is the problem with heating and smell. So we haven't got a consent to compost on site.
Yeah, that you were selling mulch, wasn't it?
Yeah, mulch. Yeah.
So you can't recreate that.
Yes, what we're looking to do is all those concrete bunkers that have been filled with glass.
Yep.
The glass has all been moved down to the back of the site. We're currently clearing them out and we're going to sell a whole lot of garden products in there. Maybe topsoil, manure, compost.
Yep.
So we're going to try and develop our garden. Our garden department up until a month ago was about 16,000 or 20,000 for the year. So we're looking to develop that. And if you go to Wanaka Waste Buses, you'll see them selling a whole lot of on products. And so we're looking to develop that.
Yeah.
So that we're looking at ways to try and increase our revenue without costing us too much money.
Sure. Thank you.
Right, we really need to get moving through this one before we go to number 2. So,
Well, I'd be happy to move the recommendation with a couple of changes. I'd move one, but make it up to an additional 60,000 for the remainder of the 2021 financial year. And I also think that 2, we need a mechanism by which this decision not to invoice. So I would move notes that should the council's chief financial officer advise that Wirt's income has improved sufficiently. In other words, I want to make sure that we have some.
I think this is a very operational part of it, and what it's saying is what our expectation is. I think the officers have written it in a way that suits their operational side of things, which is that basically Wirt won't invoice them if they don't.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any need for just making this change. Say,
Yeah, that's correct. The way it's written at the moment is that it's Wirt's decision whether or not to invoice. We're saying that if Wirt needs the money, they will invoice, but it's Wirt's call whether or not they would do that, not council's call. Yeah, and unless you wish to put additional caveats.
Trust there.
Well, I'll move the changes in 1 that I outlined and leave 2 as it stands.
I appreciate that. So, Councillor Hopkins, seconded Councillor Grovey. Any discussion? Councillor King.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. Things have been pretty tough. You guys have hung in there. And the moment you start jumping the ship, that's when we'll really reassess things. In the meantime, looks like it does look positive. You've managed to keep going in a positive vein. So this just.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I'd like Councillor King and I'll support them. We're really doing a great job. Keep it up. And I think in relation to number 2, the extra money, I'm sure if we apply for money, then council staff will have the power to scrutinise the application to make sure the money is applied.
Councillor Percival.
Yeah, that's support too, because you've always operated on a very frugal basis. And it's very important facility for the community.
We won't be taking its trustees' fees. We've been 18 years and we haven't had a cent out of it. So you can assure that we're doing it for the community and we're happy to do it for the community.
It's all that warm, fuzzy feeling.
That's right.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. The amount of work that the trustees have put in and the volunteers that are involved in the trust, you're doing a great job.
It's interesting on the survey that you've just done that 80% of the recycling is coming through the park, 70% direct and 10 or 11% through waste management and arm movement. So.
Well done. I'm going to put it, those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Councillors, now go back to item 6.1 on page 6. Recommendation of other area committee. So we have had a lot of goes at this. I think we've got a plan coming from the Harbour Area Committee, which is very much fit for purpose. We're allowing for positive change, but basically keeping the tone of the area. That one. It's become an increasingly important recreational space, but it still allows for the other activities that have traditionally happened in the area, and so first of all, are there any questions for Mr. Jorgensen or yourself, Councillor Hopkins?
Yes, look, looking at the attachment number starts on, I think, page 55. I just have a couple of questions. On 56, there's a reference to, this is new wording, I think, the council, during the term of this harbour plan intends to carry out reserve status exchanges to make Cape Wandrow legally a reserve under the Reserves Act 1977. Is that all of it? Or because there are freehold sections up there and there's also a commercial forest. So does that mean the whole of the Cape?
It's, there is a map on
Page 6.
there's a map on page 66, and it's showing the Cape and Lookout Point in light green.
Right.
It doesn't show the end of the Cape, but it is all the land going right over
As far as the dots.
parts there.
So
The idea is that it locks up.
Whoever that land as a reserve, it's used as a.
That it has that legal status. And swap
Arrangements that we do.
that's the wording, could point people to the map, just say see map, such and such. But just on page 60, I remain anxious about the change in the turning circle at the end of Esplanade Road, and I hope we get a chance to see what was planned, given the heat about some of the new road architecture that's been lately. And maybe people get a chance to see we get a chance to see what's going to happen there. And but the other thing on page 61, under page 31 amendments, there's some new wording that is, and this is a sentence, the last sentence there reads as follows: the desire is to create a square or plaza where the road surfaces, along with flexible and innovative street furniture, which will be installed and can be moved around to accommodate all kinds of events or shows. It needs to be reworded because it isn't a sentence at the moment and it doesn't quite make sense. I'm not entirely sure. Then the reason I raise it is it's not immediately obvious what you're trying to say.
Yeah, no, there's a wee bit of editing on here.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of comments can put in.
Yep, we can tweak that for sure.
And just the traffic management report mentioned on that page, that was the one that we saw very early on, was it? That was Rationale's.
Abley report.
That's correct. It's the Abley report, which is one of the appendices or to the harbour plan.
This as an appendix, will it?
Well, the harbour plan itself hasn't got all the attachments to it as such, but they're referred to as separate reports, which are available on Council's website.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? Councillor Wolseley?
Oh, I was just going to just indicate I've need to move the resolution. So,
Okay. Yeah. So I'll take that. Second for Tavendale. Any other comments? I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Just want to acknowledge the work of staff and the committee, including the 4 community members that are on the committee for for the work that's gone on. And it hasn't always been easy. Challenges along the way, but it's said earlier, I think we ended up with something that is going to meet the aspirations of the community and the expectations that we continue to have the harbour as a very special area for multiple communities. So thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. Andres, thank you very much, and please pass on our thanks to all those involved. Just very quickly, Mr. Van der Speck, do you have any comment on the reserve side of things as to how that's going to work, or is it a bit of
Possibly, Mr. Jorgensen.
Yeah. So one of our projects we're looking at is how the land swap arrangement will work. So they will work through Mrs. Julius in the property department. So that is also tying in with the RSA project as well. So there's a few synergies between this work. We want to make sure that when we do those land swaps, we cover all the issues that we have in various land areas at once.
Might that be captured by some local, but are you imagining that other area, other than the RSA building specifically, might be captured in a local building? Is that what you're saying?
No, not as such. It's not quite as simple as that. There are a number of issues with land statuses, some related to a local bill tied to RSA, some not related. But if we can tie them all together as one job, then it makes it cheaper for our ratepayers and more efficient overall. So we'll work through that. And when we're ready, of course, that'll come back to council for discussion.
Councillor, progressing on the local bill.
Okay, we're getting.
I think slightly off the Harbour plan at the moment. Thanks for the inquisition, though.
It's good that that work's carrying on. I just asked the question because I think it's important for the public to know, this is happening in part. Ensuring that our reserves or areas that are treated as reserves are kept as reserves is important. We do have time, I'm pretty sure, to deal with 6.2 on page 69, just recommendation from the Assets Committee around draft policy on drinking water quality. Someone want to move that recommendation? Councillor Tavendale, second Councillor Halalali. Thank you. Any comments? Chris Hopkins.
Yeah, there is a I think a word that has to be added on page 70 under undervalued environment. The sentence below that, providing safe, reliable drinking, also aligns with council's strategic priorities. I suspect the word water has to come after drinking. I don't know that we want to provide safe strategic drinking. And again, I just lament the absence of planing. Could have been put so much more simply.
I think we do actually want safe.
Well, we do, but I don't think that's just policy.
I'm going to put the motion on page 69. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, that's carried. Thank you very much. Now going to take a break for morning tea. Just to also acknowledge Mr. Clark's presence here. Welcome, Steve. And it's really good to have you on board doing the role you have. I understand you've come from Clutha, the second such import from Clutha, and I just want to acknowledge that I will probably get to shout the Mayor of Clutha at this Friday's Mayoral Forum, because he's probably going to have a word with me about taking staff. But anyway, welcome. Okay, we'll now break for morning tea. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Red bands and swan.
Okay, so welcome back everybody, and we're going to go straight to agenda item 7.1 on page 73, the Performance Audit and Risk Committee independent member. Mr. Hope, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. So the first resolution is procedural, just to confirm that once you found someone, they could actually be a member of the committee and have some voting powers. The second is just really setting out a process to find a suitable person for this role. It's very much based on the directorship review and appointment process, including using the executive committee to provide advice and guidance, and then make a recommendation to council in terms of a potential candidate. Really, the other matter is there are some examples, recent examples there of the kind of advertisement, and which is effectively a profile of the kind of person filling the role with other TAs. I think my preference would probably be the third one, which is a little broader in its scope. The other two, it's almost by default you will end up with a retired accountant, which, you know, I will be one of them one day, but and of course we've got one or two of those at the table. But I don't think the idea of having independent members on audit and risk committees was just a job creation scheme for accountants. So I think we should cast the net a little broader, have a bit more of an open mind about the skill set that the committee is after. And I think that sort of broader ad that's in the third one would do that pretty effectively. So really just happy to answer any questions, but it is quite procedural.
So essentially, this is an important thing, as has been pointed out by audit and in the draft council report, being an independent member, and actually understand 41 councils have independent chairs of their committees, but they aren't necessarily doing all of the responsibilities of our performance audit risk committee. We've agreed in principle on getting an independent member, and I think it's it very much is getting someone who isn't just going to be looking at the finances, it's on the other areas around performance and risk, which we also need. So I'll just, any questions? Councillor Hopkins?
Well, yeah, I suppose it's more of a comment than a question if you'll entertain it. But I was just, look, to some extent we've done this so far because we have been pressurised or been put to us repeatedly that we should have such a person. The one thing I'm not sure that we have actually devoted enough time to is what is this particular skill set that we might be looking for. And it did occur to me when we're going through all the long-term plan stuff the other day, that maybe what we actually need, because the committee now operates has different chairs with different areas of its focus. And I'm wondering whether it's actually possible to look at two people, one with an investment focus who might help, because that's an area where, and when I say underperform, I don't mean that we're underperforming because of ineptitude. We want to get better results and returns, and as somebody with an investment background might be helpful. Equally, the issue of risk is uppermost in people's minds, so maybe we could have an appointee when the committee is looking at financial matters, and another appointee who would attend when the focus is on risk. It's just a thought. But more generally, if that's not accepted by other councils, and I rather imagine it wouldn't be, although I think there was merit in the idea, I wouldn't mention it. I do think we need to think very carefully about the skill set we want. And personally, my focus would be on somebody with some investment assistance or assistance with investments and leveraging more bang for our income buck.
That's Yeah, it's not about having an advisor, it's about someone who can give greater scrutiny and bring a broader understanding of the role that the Performance Audit and Risk Committee has, which is monitoring and making sure that things are going right. If we want investment advice, we get specialists who can come along and advise us on things. But having said that, we have taken a conservative track, and we haven't shown any real indication that we want to go too much further than just the loans we have investing in our community and getting a slightly higher rate of money was in the bank. So I think you're right. I think councillors won't agree with that, but happy to hear other views as well. Councillor Horsley.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I just respond to Councillor Hopkins. There's just that council has no money to invest in time, Councillor Hopkins. So a few years away before we'll have to worry too much about how council invests money. But no, I agree with the comments Mr. Hope made before about the skills required. And recommendation number 2, it's an expression of interest process led by the executive committee. So the executive committee will be tasked with preparing the notice or the request for expression of interest, and that's where the skills that are desired will be outlined. And I agree with Mr. Hope that the skills are with two accountants on council already. They don't need accountants, just the broader government skills as outlined by Mayor Kircher and the assistance to the committee. And but just so that's what I would be looking for. And I think also just to reiterate a comment made by Mr. Hope in a previous meeting was that the appointing of an independent member to the risk committees, but there's no independent member ever appointed to an assets committee or a regulatory committee. So as Mr. Hope said last time, we don't know why accountants need to be peer reviewed all the time. Never mind, that's the flavour of the month. So, but anyway, we'll just leave that. I think it will go to the executive committee to determine the details of the request for expression of interest.
I think it's because accountants like to believe they are the reason for everything else in the organisation. Everything revolves around money.
That's in
so no, just a bit tongue in cheek that one. It is about making sure that we've got the right skills around giving scrutiny, because that actually is the core of what we do. We can do all of these other things, make decisions, but it is the PAR committee is set up to actually oversee so much of that other activity as far as are we getting the value that we should be getting. Councillor Tavendale.
Just questioning whether we're looking at keeping the membership same and dropping down a council member, or if we're actually making it.
We haven't had a discussion on that, but I think as we go through, as we see what applicants come forward, we can see who's going to be the best fit on here. And actually, I'd see the committee in discussion with council ultimately bring forward a recommendation about that. We haven't discussed it at all up to now, but it's something worth considering at that time. Councillor McRovey.
Chair, I'll move recommendations 1 and 2.
Someone second that. Councillor Tavendale, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, look, I'm happy that we have this in the decision and I'll vote accordingly. But I don't think we should go the full hog as has been suggested, and that they become the chair. I think in due course that may happen, but not in the meantime.
That's good as well. So, I'm going to put it. Time is getting on. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. From 11:15, which is just over 20 minutes from now, and we've got a number of items I want to get through before that. Hopefully some of these will be pretty quick anyway. 7.2 is about the road naming of a new road for the Observatory Retirement Village on page 80. So proposal to name it Kauri Crescent, I think. There we go. So seconded was Councillor Halalady.
Councillor.
Who moved it? Councillor?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I took the seconder over here. Right, do we have questions, comments? Councillor Halliday.
Very just a comment from me. I just seek to defer this paper just to make sure that we undertook a full staff. The relationship that we have with you. And I'm more than happy and assured now that we've done what we need to do this.
Councillor Tefno.
I was just going to echo that really pleased that's taken on board, and it's just hopefully part of the plan moving forward as to what we do.
Okay, any other comments? Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Next item is another naming of a road, this time for Holmes Hill Estate, a new subdivision south of Oamaru. Proposal that the new road created there is Gladstone Drive. Councillor King.
I'm prepared to move it. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's really good that the people that are putting money up have the same as much as us, so we just rubber stamp.
That's good. Councillor McRoby, your seconding that. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Okay, now moving to item 7.4 on the heating upgrade for Julius, welcome.
Thank you.
So would you like to?
Certainly. The boiler at the Opera House, it's a critical piece of infrastructure. We're having significant issues with it on an ongoing basis. Due to the criticality, we are proposing that we replace the boiler to something that is more efficient and will keep the facility warm and comfortable for our patrons.
Any questions? Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, clearly it's failed at least 4 or 5 years earlier than it should have.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, what are the depreciation and or other cost implications of going early on the new one? I mean, can we, perhaps it's Mr. Hope or Mrs. Julius, can we build in a 4-year depreciation relief or something of that nature to offset the cost to ratepayers of getting rid of a piece of kit before they should have and expected to?
If I may, you'll actually find that the operational costs will actually help support, because the operational costs will be less. So I think we'll be okay. Got enough depreciation in there to cover this.
Well, okay.
The risk is actually would have been the other way, that we hadn't collected enough depreciation over the time. Thankfully, we have got that. Are you installing it? One here.
Do you have some work?
I think that's an old boiler, not a new boiler.
So anyway, thankfully we have got enough
We do.
depreciation fund now, because if you fully depreciate it and you're still able to use it, that's when you get the gain. But when you fall short, that's when it tends to get the cost. Councillor Wallstein.
Yeah, thank you, Mikuta. I just commend the writer of the report. I think it's a very good report. And as you said, Renee, the savings of operation in the next 4 years will recover any loss on the old boiler. So I'm just happy to move the resolution.
Okay, move seconded.
I was going to say something.
Going to ask a question? Yeah, ask you a question or?
Yes, I was asking you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And firstly, I'll say, as I agree with Colin, it's a jolly good report, and comprehensive and everything. I was concerned about the ongoing maintenance and guarantees on the unit, which is obviously covered on page 93. You're quite confident that there is a backup, the whole 9 yards, rather than what we've had in the past with the one that was put in promises.
Absolutely.
Great. Councillor Alston's moved that, second Councillor Tamanel. Any further discussion?
Just a right reply, just if I can make another comment, just in response to what Councillor Cooster asked, is there are 3 companies in the Oamaru area that are certified to install and service the backseat boilers. So I think in terms of maintenance and support, it will be far superior to the present boiler. So
As well as
reduce running costs, reduce maintenance,
improves servicing and maintenance as well. So
it's a win-win all round.
Councillor Williams.
And it's definitely win-win, and yeah, it's a great report. I just want to make sure that we fixed our internal problems which made us choose the best one.
Absolutely. We've gone through a full comprehensive process.
Okay, I shall put that one. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. You. Stuart.
Thank you.
Now move to 7.7. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 7.5, New Zealand Geographic Board report on a proposal changing the name. So not a name we're changing, but whether we're supporting it, the addition of Waihemo to the Shag River name. So we've got anyone that wants to speak to this, Mr. Power?
Well, the report is self-explanatory, Mr. Mayor. Recommendation is very simple. The proposal has been put to the New Zealand Geographic Board by the 2 affected rūnanga involved, and in my view, it's appropriate to support our local rūnanga, their wishes in relation to the naming. So I'm recommending that council support the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Wallstein.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Power, for this. I just a question, Fergus. In terms of the advertising, it's been advertised in the New Zealand Gazette. Does council have any requirement to do anything about this as well, or is it just purely left to the New Zealand Geographic Board to advertise these things?
No, it's a function of the New Zealand Geographic Board.
Right. I just wondered, just advertised in the New Zealand Gazette, and wonder how many local people have actually seen that notification, but that's the process.
Okay, Councillor Halalei. Okay, moved Councillor Halalei and second Councillor Tavendale. I should put that. Those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Just make note, on Friday we had a National Council meeting for local government in New Zealand. We had the National Geographic Board come and speak to us around our place names. They're actually embarking on a project to either correct names or to give names to places that, or things that aren't named yet. I believe in our district we've got around 500 places. So they're working through the country though. They're starting at the north and working their way down. I think Southland had the record with something like 2,790 places or features that they're giving names to. So it is being done over quite a period of time, but I think it's definitely a sign of the times that having greater recognition of original names has become much more important. So they'll be moving on that. Being they've counted us as part of the Canterbury cluster, so we're slightly earlier than the rest of the Otago. So have that happening at some stage. And, it's quite a major project. Thank you. So that's with other background. Right, this time we shall move to 7.7 and page 111, the North Otago rugby lease. Continue Park. To change.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So essentially, North Otago Rugby have requested Council's permission to relocate its offices to Whitestone Contracting Stadium. They intend to, I guess, reconstruct some existing containers that they have been using as corporate boxes in the past. And so they're requesting a lease from council for that purpose. Any lease does require public notification, and we'll need to go through that process before we finalise any decision to lease. North Otago Rugby has already spoken to North Otago Cricket and to North Otago Athletics, and I understand that neither of them have any concerns about this. So.
Any questions for Mr. Van Spek? Councillor McRoby.
Question, Eric, why is the lease only for 15 years with no right of
Just to maintain some flexibility for council if they chose to do anything differently in the future.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, just a question about the rent on that same page 116. We're proposing to charge them $1.
Correct. So that is consistent with the existing leases for Excelsior at the North Otago Cricket building, which is on Centennial 2. Right. So it's consistent with other leases and council's policy as far as supporting recreational activities.
Wishing to be a sponsor?
No, I was simply wondering about. I mean, you've got the containers there, and there's clearly going to be sort of some additional furniture and construction around them. We'll wait and see what the community thinks, but I was just wondering if we're satisfied that $1 was all we would want to charge it.
So yeah, certainly a bit the handling situation around making sure that we are consistent. Yeah. Certainly looks like we are. So from that point of view. Okay, Councillor Taverner, want to move? Yeah, move. And seconded, Councillor Wallstein. Any further discussion? Councillor Kingham.
I guess these guys know what they want. Has it been explored at all that they go into the grandstand? Is there any areas there that would be suitable?
I know through you, Mr. Chair, I know they have considered that in the past. A number of years ago, there was a conversation regarding up the back of the grandstand. However, they've decided that this suits their needs better other locations.
Thank you.
Yeah, just saying that I think the temporary idea at the moment too works quite well. We've got a bigger discussion around sports complex happening at the same time, and certainly involved in that. So it's a good sort of measure to get them through and help them cut their costs before they need to make a bigger call.
Thank you. I shall put it over time. Thanks. Okay, that's carried. Right. Now moving on to random reports 8.1 on page 119. So Dr. Ian Griffin was to be coming and presenting, but he's not been able to. One of the staff members had a major medical incident over the weekend and he needs to cover their responsibilities. So passed on our thoughts and best wishes to the staff member. And we will see if we can get him to, Dr. Griffin, to come another time and present to us. So, so 16th of February, he's penciled in, council meeting then, and give an update. The reason why we have Otago Museum coming and reporting to us is the fact that we, as part of an act of government, we have to contribute to the funding of the Otago Museum. That figure is something around $70,000 a year as our contribution. So we haven't seen them for a while as far as reporting to us as council, so it'll be good to come and report at that time. The next three items, we've got people coming for each of those. So I'm going to ask you to go to item 8.5, Support and Stimulus Fund Quarterly Reconciliation Report on page 174. This was a report for noting, and to the page. Gives a bit of as I say, as it says, a reconciliation of where things are at. I'm wondering if anyone's got any questions on that or comments. Councillor Timothy.
Just that it's really good to see this come through because we've had quite a few meetings of both the funds up till now, and apart from what Pat and one of us, we haven't probably seen the overall effect of it. And I'd really like to see these reports or a budget at very least, an idea of where we're sitting, come through on each of the support and stimulus and economic development meetings. But I think it's actually important for us to know where we're sitting.
Yeah, no, did right. A lot of these, well, all of the applications by necessity have to be considered in public excluded session. So to have the public accountability side of reporting is really is important, and this gives people a good indication of what support and stimulus funding has gone towards, and how that's helped our community. So, sorry, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, just looking at page 175, the Economic Resilience Fund has applications to that more than double the actual amount in the fund. And we've only awarded we've had $760,000 worth of, $760,848,000 worth of applications, 114,000 made available. Does that point to a bigger problem than we anticipated? And might that suggest that the amount in that ERF should be increased? I mean, not being on that fund, is it possible for those of us who aren't to know what some of those $760,000 worth of applications were? Were they realistic? Were they genuine? Were they appropriate? Why is this such a low percentage in terms of the total amount asked for awarded? I'm just curious about those things.
I think essentially people are ambitious and aspirational, and we have to cut the cloth to fit, and where someone's asking for a modest amount and we can see good benefit, that's great. If they're asking for higher amounts, we have to see really good benefit from that. Otherwise, they are blind. That tends to be the situation. Any amount over $30,000 comes through to council, but we haven't agreed on any particular ones. But happy for Councillor Tavendale to add to that.
Yeah, also obviously we're not giving the full amount of all of them. I think that it's quite reasonable to expect that parties put some money in themselves as well as us contributing. And I just guess that those agendas are open to all councillors to see what's coming to us in the minutes following that. So I think if you've got some concerns, you're best to look through that. And obviously we've only put the ones that have been funding with the public interest in that. But yeah, it's open for council on those ones to make sure they.
Just coming back to that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Councillor Tavendale has just said. And in terms of some of the applications for the fund, it's only to cover which were events caused by the COVID crisis. And some of the applications were in fact not really supporting stimulus at all. They were stimulus, but they were perhaps could be described as new business startups, which really were not a result of the COVID problems that had occurred. So, yeah, there weren't seen to fit the criteria.
So the view of those on that adjudicate this matter is that the size of the application received doesn't warrant an increase in allocation of funds to that fund.
Not this stage.
Okay.
Councillor McRory.
Chair, if memory serves me right, one of those was for 500,000 and out of the 760, so that
it definitely is one of those things. It's for some businesses, they put forward an idea, and you know, so we look at, okay, how broadly is the benefit going to be spread? You know, we aren't able to subsidise individual businesses just for their own benefit. It's about what are they adding to our economy overall and to other businesses and to the community. So anyway, that's it. Councillor Taverneau, you want to move that? Thank you. And secondly, Councillor McRovey. Any further discussion? I just make a comment that it is really important that we continue to use the money very carefully. It's certainly been helpful. It's helped events be run in the community. It's helped various initiatives that are helping to you know, take care of some of the issues caused by COVID, and it's helped some other initiatives take place that wouldn't have otherwise been able to, but always with an eye on what's the overall benefit for the money. So thank you all for your participation in the funds to date. I'll put that down. Those in favour, say against. Carried. Thank you very much. We're now going to go back to item 8.2, the Waitaki Community Recreation Centre Annual Report on page 120. Welcome and Taverneau to the chamber.
Thank you.
And no doubt, just speaking to had your challenges centre as well. During level 3 region. But happy to hear about how things are going overall. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for the opportunity to present a report, annual report for the Waitaki Community Recreation Centre from the 1st of July 2019 to the 30th of June 2020. Oh, technology, I'm not sure I'll be very good at this. We're just, as a preface to that, we're really excited about the fact that there's the new stadium proposal's been kicked off again, so that's really cool. And we're right behind that. That'll be great. In the meantime, we're pretty proud of what we do at the Rec Centre. So this is just a brief report about some of the things over that 12 months. Of course, we were impacted by COVID, as everybody was. So we, despite the disruptions from COVID, we still had a positive financial result. We did lose probably about 15% of our bookings. So our main income is the focus on use of the indoor courts. And so about 15% of that, 15% down in that 12-month period, which wasn't too bad really. So just the usual things, there was a positive financial result, regular and new activities and events. So we have regular users who tend to sort of keep on coming along, and then we have some new ones who come and go. So each year we still get new users coming along and using the facilities, which is great. So we've completed some, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Key event hired during that period of time included the Sports Bodies Annual Network Waitaki Sports Awards, which we've got at the Rec Centre now, and so have had for the last couple of years, and hopefully coming up again. We were really lucky we squeezed that in just before the COVID closed down, so that was very fortunate. We were closed during the level 3 and level 4 and level 3. Took that opportunity, staff got stuck in and did a huge big clean and stuff like that, so that was good use of the time. And we did lose, obviously, hire during that time, and there were ongoing implications of people, once we opened up again, not wanting to come back, but we still have had ongoing use and hire. So if we just go back here. So basketball, that's ongoing. We had a full season in 2019, but obviously the 2020 season was delayed. We have picked that up in the subsequent financial year that we're currently in. So most of that, probably 60 to 70% of it, so that's been quite good. Filipino Waitaki Incorporated Basketball League, really strong community, Filipino community who use the Rec Centre regularly, run 2 seasons there. We run our own basketball league there. We have people come in and out, just casual use. So that 1,000 hours over the year, that's pretty much on par with previous years, which has been great. Lots of group hire for basketball, and North Otago Basketball Association uses a lot for rec practices, coaching, ref clinics, etc. Pacific Island volleyball tournament was run, and this regular community group hire. This Pacific Island groups tend to mostly play volleyball, so there's a lot of that goes on. And one of the new groups this year was the Inspired Faith Church, which is a new church group to town, and they have perhaps up to 80 people along, just bringing everybody together, and so they hire quite regularly, as well as the Omri Pacific Island Community Group, although COVID impacted on that. And so indoor football, that has run regularly, 2 seasons. Yep. Next one. Thanks, Sarah. Tai Chi, that's been going for many, many years. Just up to 20 participants, 4 classes a week. Taekwondo, Whitestone Taekwondo, the club, their numbers got quite low. So prior to Christmas 2019, they had to drop their hours of hire, but they've picked up again. So that's looking really positive. So they're back to their usual hire. And netball, they run camps and coaching clinics. Some of them were impacted by COVID, and lots of other sports. Just about any sport you could name probably occurs. We still had some tournaments: small ball rifle shooting, network Waitaki basketball tournament, and table tennis. And the expos, we have the school's fair night, which is a very exciting, colourful night, and the Farmlands Ladies Night, where they bring speakers and have a big event, and the Sports Awards, which is once again a big event. So that shows that the centres, although it's not ideal, it still can be dressed up and look really good for a good formal night out. We had physiotherapy clinics and occupational therapy clinics. It's really nice to have those allied health services as part of the rec centre as well, and ongoing regular competitions. You'll see we had more than 360 hours of planned regular, and one of hire was cancelled in that 3-month period. Yep, thanks, Derek. We provide programs, so just our usual ongoing programs. Active Kids Holiday Program continued to be fully patronised, so we have 40 kids for 5 mornings for 1 week every school holidays. We had to cancel the April one, obviously, but the rest of them went. And mini movers for little kids, and we have a creche for parents. The use of that sort of comes and goes just depending on who's using the centre at the time, really. FunFit Kids, a Senior Strong program for quite popular, run under the Live Stronger, Live Longer, and you know, people from people who get out tramping right through to people who are using mobility aids to be there. But there's lots of anecdotal evidence that people are having less falls, all those sorts of things, and a fantastic social as well. So people really find that just as valuable as the physical benefits, I think. And we run lots of fitness classes, boot camps, etc. So we partner with the Alpine Club, and they've put this new bouldering wall in, which has been really cool. They launched it just before we went into lockdown, so it kind of perhaps got a little bit lost. So we've been promoting that. When I ran the holiday program, a lot of kids kind of found out about that, and we had a lot of kids and parents coming in. So that's awesome. It's right, high standard, and we have people come from Timaru and Dunedin, etc., to use it. So the usage isn't high as yet, but I think it'll develop. Safe and professionally maintained, we aim for that. So we still have a few key maintenance projects, some new carpet with the help of Network Waitaki and Waitaki District Council, computer upgrade, security cameras just to make it safer. We've got them outside now, and then we whacked a whole lot of trees down, so we're needing to develop that area again. But it does improve the ease of maintenance of the building, and improve the security outside as well. We're still looking at the remarking of the gym floors and some damaged external panels. Some of that sort of got put on hold a bit during COVID, sort of lost traction on that, so we'll get back into it in this current financial year. Our partnerships, ongoing collaboration with Sport Waitaki, that's strong and that works well. And the Sports Bodies Association, really involved with that, A, with the Sports Awards, and B, with the Hall of Fame. And we're just going to combine, we're going to combine a relaunch of the Sports Hall of Fame and some new inductees into it as part of the Sports Awards coming next March as well. And we do some stuff out in the community, really involved with the Rainbow Run and a few other events out in the community. We usually run the Plunkett Spinathon and raise money for them, but that got put off due to COVID. So, summary. Positive financial performance despite the disruptions. We have got some funds there. Most of them are tagged funds for maintenance projects going forward. We have that ongoing financial contribution from the girls' school, generous sponsorship from the council, and we do source other funds locally as well to help with our projects. As I said, we get new groups coming along and using the facility, so that brings some new income in, although others do drop off. And we did qualify for the wage subsidy under the COVID-19 due to the loss of revenue. So thank you for your support and looking forward to a positive year that we're currently in. And are there any questions?
And I'll just ask our representative, Councillor Holt, comments you want to make?
I don't have any questions, but yeah, just a comment that it's just very serious. Encouraging to see how many sports people are using it from the wage groups. And it's good that it's had a positive year despite the disruptive year we had.
Thank you, Councillor Holding.
Okay, any questions, councillors?
Thank you, Diane. It's good to see the result. Excuse me. Yeah, just a couple of questions on your actual report. On page 122, you mentioned the fact that you've got schools from Dunedin, St Clair School and St Joseph's. Why is that? I was quite surprised.
They come up to use the climbing wall.
Oh, the climbing,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And just one other question on that page. Are things like the expos, the Clued Up Kids and Clued Up Supers expos, are they good earners in terms of rental or higher charges?
We get normal higher income for them. Yes. So I mean, I guess it's great. They're great community events, so they're really well patronised, and also there is a little bit of spin-off sometimes for some of the activities that we do. So if the kids come along to the kids one, they might see some of the things at the rec centre, or the parents will see stuff and they'll come back and do stuff. So there's a possibility of spin-offs there.
It's just the new income on page 126.
26.
There's a reference to the New Zealand Flight School. Was that our NZAA at the
Yes,
airport, or
yes,
somebody
they.
else? Oh, somebody else.
Yeah, no, they use the.
Okay.
They're one of the very regular users. They come along a lot and use the courts for basketball and volleyball. Yeah.
And just one very quick financial question. On page 132, you're showing revenue from goods and services provided as 136,768. So that's revenue. And yet 2 pages later on 134, receipts from providing goods and services 157,114. And I'm just wondering why that's discrepancy of $21,000.
Sorry, I've just got different page numbers to you, so I'm just trying to. Right. So we're looking at
Statement of cash flows.
Statement of cash flows versus which was the other page of it?
Well,
statement of financial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Revenue is given from goods and services provided is shown as 136,768. But then a couple of pages on, receipt from providing goods and services is 157,114.
So probably best to ask. Oh no, it won't be GST. I don't know if it's GST or is it best to ask the accountant because it's how they do their reports. Some things are different. So different things get put in different categories depending which part of the report they're doing, is my understanding. I don't think there's GST on here.
15%.
Oh, well, it might be then. Okay, perhaps it is.
Your receipts would have included.
Oh, right. Yes, they will too. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, can't answer that, but people around here can. Yeah.
All right, anything else? Councillor Hart, Lately.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes, I'd just echo that too. Well done, Diane and your team. To achieve success last year and a pretty tough year was a good result. So well done to you.
Thank you. Pass that on.
Someone to move the. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Providing great service. Thank you and well done and all the best for the year ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Now on to the Kuria Duntroon Irrigation Company update, and welcome to the Chamber Chairman Jeff Keeling and Director Dr. Webster. Welcome. And that's, yeah, to be found on page 150.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure, what have you got in your pack? You've got... We've got your financial statement. And my chairman's report. Here is it. Okay. Look, I wasn't going to go through in time. Sorry. What's your allocation? Of
15 minutes.
Excellent. Right. Just some highlights. I suppose I should mention, I am your former chairman and director. I stood down at the AGM this year after, I think, 15 years as chairman of the company. So, and just the simple reasoning for that was, I guess the company's moving into the next stage, and I didn't have the energy to probably see that through completely. So best to let those going to carry it forward. Just some highlights from the year. Obviously, thank you to the council for their financial support by way of a loan to the Kurat Untroon scheme. To all intents and purposes, the scheme rebuild has been finished. It's completely operational and has been since about March of this year. And for this season, everyone has been irrigating through the new infrastructure. We turned on in mid-August, which is probably the earliest most people have started irrigating. We haven't really stopped since. It is not contractually, it is not practically complete. Even though it's operational, contractually practically complete means a few different things. So there are issues to sign off, and that we are still working through as a company at the moment. One of those is obviously that the council is fully aware of is the issues with the pipeline around the bluff section above Kurat, and that is in the plans and to be remedied obviously next winter. And we are currently, the contractors are working through with NZTA and getting those plans formally approved and then engaging subcontractors to do the works. We also have a few issues to do. We've got further work at the Waitaki Dam to complete that the contractor needs to sort out to Meridian's standard. We have some pump stations that are at the shoulders of the season are not quite performing to the principal's requirements, which we laid down before the contract was let. And we, along with the bluffs, we also had some issues with air valves and some pump stations that we're currently working through as well. And then just closing out some on-farm items with shareholders. Here. Just some from on the ground, the farmers and the shareholders are extremely positive about the project now. Obviously, there are a few issues as we're going through farmers' properties during the year and upsetting operations. But now the ability of farmers to be able to turn on when they want, how they want, and if we get 10 mils of rain, they can turn off. We're not worried about rosters and bits and pieces like that. So I think the efficiency has certainly, which was one of the desired results, has been great. Share sales in the last financial year, while we only issued a further 27 shares, we were largely not operational. This season, we've sold 10 already. There's been 50 further converted from dry to wet. There's a property sale that's just happened, so there'll be another 50 likely converted to wet shares, and we've also got 2 new inquiries from farmers in the command area borrowing regards availability of shares as well. I think one thing in Jock's experience with Noik, there was always nothing like a drought to sell shares in an irrigation company. As far as the financials are concerned, you'll probably realise that we are fully drawn down. We're fully drawn down the council loan of $3 million plus capitalised interest. So the balance with the council is currently just over $3 million. And the repayments on those start happening in February or March of this year. I'm not exactly sure which month it is. So I guess moving forward, obviously the company wants to close out the issues that it currently has with our contractor, get the bluff pipe work remediated above Kurau, and continue to just bed in all the changes and on-farm changes that have been made. So look, really, that's all I've got to say. Again, thank you to the council very much for your support. It's unfortunate that our contractors placed your staff in some awkward positions earlier in the last winter, and we'll certainly be looking to remedy that and move on. So pretty much just open for questions. We certainly appreciate that, that last comment on that situation. It was a bit of a difficult time out there in the public, and we ended up with a good solution, albeit that it was delayed with COVID. Somewhere out there, I do potentially owe someone a $50 bet. We would have had it done this last. Who predicted COVID was going on? Yeah. Anyway, right, councillors, do we have any questions?
A couple of things. How many shares have you still got to take up?
So the current capacity of the scheme, like it's been designed for up to 5,500. We have our current consent gives us, assuming everyone was spray, about 4,750, and currently we have 4,000 shares on issue. Yes.
And the other thing, it was sort of promised earlier on, but I'd still like to see us do it, is have a bit of a tour of what we've done.
Yeah, it was down the valley on Sunday, and a couple of centre pivots being constructed at the moment. Yeah. There you go.
And just, I mean, the reliability of the Waitaki River is so important to this district. And there's, you know, there are other, it's been pretty dry, as everyone knows. But the fact that we're able to continue on pretty well is huge.
And look, I guess on the reliability, just further to that, is now that the scheme is well positioned and with the focus on environmental outcomes being so strong, is with the scheme as it is, I think we're quite well placed, and the shareholders are quite well placed to actually be able to cope with many of those regulations as they come through as well. Councillor Tavendale and Councillor Hopkins.
And that's probably touching on what I was going to ask, what role you guys have in farm environment plans and making sure that the water's being used.
Yeah. So we've had farm environment plans as a condition of our consent for about, where are we now, 2020, 7 years since our consent was reissued. And so everyone has to have those, including the smaller shareholders. Obviously, under our water supply agreement, and so a combination. So we've got farm environment plans, water supply agreements, which dictate how the water is used, and then we've also got our consent conditions. So some of our consent conditions are that it's nutrient budgeting, overseers, farm environment plans must be completed, efficient irrigation we must approve. So any new shareholder that comes on must submit their designs previously so they can be assessed. And your application rates mustn't exceed soil moisture holding capacity. So it is, and there's annual auditing of that, which we contract out to an independent firm.
Appreciate your environmental taking up and would love to see that come through in your reporting to us a little more, so that it's a bit more obvious, because obviously we get pushback on the environmental concerns around irrigation, and I think showing that you guys are front footing things is really important.
It's certainly a focus going forward, as once we've got through the project, is to actually cement a lot of those things in, and I think it's something that all irrigation companies are grappling with as well, is about how do we actually
and how do we deal with the issues as they arise.
Dealing with those issues is in itself an issue, because the directors are local people in the community, and it's their job, in theory, to go and smack people's fingers who haven't delivered on what their farm environmental plan said they were going to deliver on. And with the Waitaki Irrigation Collective, which is the group of all the irrigators taking water out of the Waitaki, they're working together to try and get some consistency in that, so that people know that all companies have the same standards in relation to different aspects. So that will build up, because the level of attention that shareholders get will build up as that develops. And it is a really important issue, because we all know the view of that is these days.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. First of all, a good result from the point of view of operating profit. On page 155, you're showing revenue up from $500,000 to 1.3 million. Is that basically the new system coming on stream and people extracting more water?
Yes, and our water charges going forward, we will be close to 600. The annual will equate to about $600 per hectare per year going forward. So, and it's also reflected, there was an extra water charge rated during the year to the tune of about 450,000. So with the scheme, I guess we've got obviously the borrowings from Crown as our main backer, and then yourselves, and then shareholders have also introduced further capital during the course of the project as well, to make sure, because we report to Crown and to yourselves each month on a cost with what's called a cost to complete. And so we have to have all our risk items in there. And so that does include, as I say, an extra water charge, but yeah, the cost structure is definitely increasing to the new thing now.
We've gone from $200 a hectare to 600.
Right. Two very quick, that will explain it. Two very quick questions on 171. Top two paragraphs on that page talk about the disappointment relating to the abatement notice, and then you say we continue to work through issues with the contractor that will allow practical completion. Reading between the lines, is that are you saying that essentially the contractor did something they shouldn't have done, or I'm trying to make a little bit more sense of that?
Well, it is our view that the bluffs are their issue. Right. So obviously an answer to that is yes, because the pipe's not quite where it should have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other question on that page, you talk about WIC being scaled, but that's the Waitaki Irrigators Collective, given all the conversation we just had. You're saying it'll be very likely that they'll have to scale back the operations in the coming year. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to get a handle on why that, what's the issue there? That
I think what
WIC directors report expect that the next year or so.
I'll scale back up. So,
sorry, scale back up. Sorry,
yes.
Right.
Currently, we don't have a policy manager since Elizabeth Sol went to Irrigation New Zealand.
Gotcha.
And so it's a bit of a work through. And then when we have all the irrigation companies, so that we have when you look at what's coming down the pipeline, as far as government regulations and the implications being placed on regional and local government, we think we need to probably be back on the game with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry. I
shortly.
Thought the word up was sort of there by mistake. No,
yep.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks. So.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jeff, for the presentation, Doc. And so, you've well done 15 years as chair. You just tell us who's the new chair?
Not appointed. That'll be decided next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay. Right. Wait for the advice in due course.
Yeah.
But the main thing I was going to ask is an accounts question, so excuse that. But on your balance sheet at June 2020, your current assets are 335,000. Current liabilities are 725,000. Obviously, your cash flow is pretty tight at the end of the year. And you're going through and you state in your report on page 169 that the directors are confident that you meet the going concern concepts. I was interested to see what the auditors commented on that point, but the audit report hasn't been attached to our papers. So did the auditor support the point of view on the going concern?
Yes, they certainly weren't. Last year they were a little bit because there was well, I don't know the answer to the dollar figures. Yeah. We are things like we don't intend to run at a profit. We leave as much in the farmers' pockets as you possibly can. So it is running, but as far as the auditors certainly didn't raise that an issue last year. The board had resolved to raise further funds from the shareholders, and that is sitting there. It's a risk item, I suppose, to shareholders if and when it is needed.
Yeah, I know that on page 171, and then we work on issues with the contractor, etc. It's still a matter that's under negotiation.
Yes, having some, I'm not sure what you call them, discussions. Strong discussions.
Yeah, you're in dialogue.
Yeah, which is not easy when their head office is on Australia.
Yeah,
and we're here and no one can see each other.
But I do note something else, Jeff, you do say that in the report that under your going concern, page 25, page 169 of our meeting papers, that the member shareholders will be asked to contribute further money, as Dr. said before, to meet the company's running requirements as may be required. So as long as the shareholders are supportive, it should be fine.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier when water's going on the ground.
Yeah.
And you see the weather at the moment and you can see your dry land property next door. It's a lot easier to pay a bill when you know that you've got grass growing and things. So marginally easier.
Good luck with your negotiations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention at a higher level, it was mentioned about how important the Waitaki River is from a reliability point of view. And that's been sort of worked into over, well, we know that Waitaki is a wonderful bit of water, and it's controlled by Environment Canterbury, and most of the other rivers are quite different. They run, if there's a storm, they peak and then they go down. Waitaki River is so different with all the storage dams. We've got a magnificent facility, and over the years we've worked with Meridian, and we've over a long period of time got to the stage where Liz Sol finally led the negotiations to get a flow sharing agreement, which ensured our reliability was very, very good. If Meridian is short of water from a generation point of view, then they've got to notify us, I think it's in April, is it? That they're running short, and all the irrigation companies will come to an agreement to lower their take a little bit. But it's working with Meridian. Now, their consent comes up for renewal, in theory, in 2025, and it was something that WIC looked at a long time ago. And so it's really, really important for this district that the discussions with Meridian go as well as they possibly can. And we've got issues about the river and erosion on the river. So there's a fine balancing. We can't lie down and let them walk all over us. But at the same time, we've got to understand how important they are to all the irrigation companies and to this district. So it's something at a higher level that councillors should be aware of, so that they can understand some of the toing and froing.
That's a good point. Gotta love them. As much as possible. But anyway, it's,
but at times it's got to be tough love.
Yeah, it is a very much a system that works well when everyone's working within it together. So that's cooperation is so crucial. Anyway, would someone like to receive information? Dan, Jerry, thank you. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you, gentlemen, and all the best.
Thank you.
Jeff, for your 15 years of service. And you're doing a great job of running your farm there and sort of environment things that you are doing on your farm by the wider community. So keep up the good work there.
Thank you.
And all the best as you continue on. Career.
Thank you. And if you want to have a tour, you come up with a suggested date and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, now we welcome representatives from the from Transpower just to update us on their proposed Clutha up to Waitaki project. So we have Roy Noble, who's the project director, and is it Julie?
Yes.
Yeah, Julie Howard, stakeholder engagement manager. Hello, thank you. And we'll hear more about the project.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you for having us. As Mia said, I'm Julie Howard and I'm Stakeholder Engagement Manager from Transpower, and this is Roy Noble, our Project Director, and it's great to be here to be able to talk to you about our project, our Clutha Upper Waitaki Line project. I've got a handout for you which I'll pass around and I'll hand over to Roy.
Hand over to me quickly, how's that? So the purpose of our catch up is merely to actually inform what we're actually up to. The works doesn't really affect the Oamaru area. We are restringing the Roxburgh to Islington 220 kV single circuit, which comes from Roxburgh to Ranfurly over Danzies Pass. Livingston is where our project ends, which is outside your zone, just. However, between the period of about January and May, we will be doing quite a bit of tower strengthening, foundation strengthening in the Danzies Pass area. All that concrete, the people will be travelling through the Corridale area. So it was more of a heads up for you that there'll be a bit more traffic on those rural roads for a wee while, whilst we're actually doing that work. The piece of work to actually replace the conductors through the Danzies Pass area isn't scheduled until early 2022, at which time we'll have an outage there to actually be able to do that. So once again, in early 2022, there'll be a period whereby we'll have quite a bit of traffic going from the kind of Duntroon area through to Danzies Pass, over Danzies Pass. It'll include trucks with all the wire, stringing equipment, etc., etc. So, yeah, really the purpose of today was you'll probably see us more, you'll probably hear us more, but we'll try and keep it down as best we can. And you'll see a lot more concrete trucks going up and down those roads through that. There's about, I think between Livingston and the top of Danzies Pass, we've got in the order of 700 or 800 cubic metres, which is about, if you do 5 per truck, it's, about 160 odd truckloads. We have to replace 3 or 4 towers up there as well. Pretty easy job, but it just takes a wee bit of time. So that's about all I can kind of, probably all that you're probably interested in, I would imagine, unless you've got any questions. Yeah, so the whole purpose of the project is to get ourselves more sustainable in terms of moving energy from the Clutha Valley north. For example, if Tiwai were to pull out, when Tiwai pulls out, whichever one you want to say, if we don't do this project, then Manapuri ends up spilling about $100 million worth of water per annum, which is a waste, really. Wouldn't it be better to generate there and maybe turn off Huntley, as an example? So
you've just handed out the map. So can you just explain that exactly? Got a couple of lines.
So
just clarify what
yeah.
you're talking about.
So the one that begins at the bottom left-hand corner, the one called the Roxburgh Islington, which then tracks up over through Wedderburn, past Naseby, through Kyburn, over Danzies Pass to Livingston, is the piece we are replacing the conductor on. We did the piece between there and Waitaki, probably about 2007, 2008, around about there. And we did the piece between, 2014. We did the piece between Livingston and the Rangitata back in about 2007. So this is kind of the missing piece, basically, which is the piece of number 8 wire that slows everything up, basically. So
as far as what the difference is between what it looks like now and what it's going to look like.
So at the moment, it's got 1 wire per phase. So it's got 3 wires, which are horizontal. All we're doing is replacing the 3 wires with 6. So we're just pairing them up. So we are replacing them, but rather than having 1 wire, there'll be 2. So the capacity ultimately doubles, which then allows power to flow more evenly between Roxburgh North.
So from a visual point of view, more wires.
Visual point of view, more wires. Basically, if you drive up the Waitaki Valley, the first 220 kV line that you pass under it will be exactly like that. And that's how that one was originally. Yep.
Councillor Wallstein?
Yeah, thank you, Roy, for your map. Just a question on Dances Pass.
Yes.
Pretty more windy, steep gravel road.
Correct.
You're putting a lot of big traffic through there, concrete trucks and other big trucks through.
Yep.
That's a road, I guess, with our roading team, with that unmaintained. What are your thoughts in terms of the effect on other users of the road, also the actual wear and tear on the road?
Yeah, transfers. Yeah, quite an interesting question there. Our feedback from NZTA at the time, because it is actually a highway, as I understand, was that the road gets closed over the winter time anyway, and it also gets closed over some periods as well. So there was conversations with NZTA that they could potentially even close it for the period that we're there. And whereby we get kind of free right of entry.
There are farms.
There are, yeah. Well, that's obviously taking account of the farms, but actually closing it to tourism as they do with the Molesworth Road.
And you know, what period of time is this project completed over? Do you know how many months?
Yeah. So I can answer that. So for the piece of work that we're just doing foundations and all that stuff on, between January and April this coming year, but we can kind of work around tourist traffic there. It's when we're doing the next piece, which is between January and April 22, where we run the wires over the roads, we build hurdles, do all that stuff. That's really the period. So it's a 3.5 to 4 month long period.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, so the Cromwell to Twizel line is just general maintenance. It's not going to change the appearance?
No, so the Cromwell Twizel, which is the other part of the uprating, we did a survey on the line and we identified which spans didn't have adequate clearance. And we've done something called a nip and tuck, which is basically pulling pieces out of the wire and pulling them in to pull it up a bit. So it just provides extra ground clearance. As you run more power over it, then it heats up. The more it heats up, the more it sags. So to ensure we meet NZECP 34, we've raised it to a point whereby there's adequate clearance. A real cheap, easy way of getting extra capacity.
Right. We've got our planning manager, Hamish Burrell, say something. So Hamish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just mentioned that this was part of it's going to be a part of a streamlined process that was going to go through to the minister, I believe, this whole upgrade. I just wondered whether, if that's not the intent, is there any other consenting requirements that you
Right. So the answer to that is yes, we have got fast track provisional rights provided by the Minister. At the moment, we have not had to use them. And if we can get by without using them, we would prefer to. So we'll be working with the council to get consensus, as we have with the Central Otago District Council, where our emphasis is at present. So we'll move our way up here as we and be having those conversations. So our preference is to not have to use those provisions, and it's worked well at the moment with Central Otago.
Good as gold. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, your overview on the second page shows that, well, I'm taking it, but at the moment, we've got 688 towers on those two lines, Roxburgh to Livingston and Cromwell to Twice. Is that right? Is that what that's telling us?
There are 437 on the Roxburgh to Livingston.
437, not 436.
Oh, maybe it's 436. We always have an argument about that.
We do.
And that was off the top of my head, by the way.
We do.
The Cromwell to Twizel, there'd be, there's over 200 towers there, yes.
So,
Thank you.
So they're existing, but
Yes.
on your progress Roxburgh page,
Yep.
there's a reference to 5 new towers.
Correct.
So where are they going to go?
So they are replacing towers that are under strength. So,
They're not new. They're not
well,
new.
they are new towers put in place of existing towers. As you can imagine, doubling up the wires, doubling up the loads, which then you add snow loads to it. The line was built in 1956, and it was only ever built for one wire. So we've had to replace 5 towers, basically.
But you're not adding to the total.
No, correct.
Okay. Anything else? No, I think that it certainly helps explain things. Yeah, we've obviously that area is both areas. We've got lines going through it, sensitive as far as the landscapes and so forth, and also the ability for landowners to get on and use their land and so on around the towers and lines is important as well. So it's certainly been helpful to have you come along and speak to us. Thank you for that.
Just one other thing I want to add, because I just thought about, also we are going to visit the Turiri ward on Monday. One of the things which, given this is a full council, we are looking at also doing a duplexing project on the Avonmore to Ben 220 kV line as well, but we're only in the investigation phase of that. So just a heads up, that was all.
We may see you at that time. Councillor King?
Yeah, look, I can't add any more, but just adding on that it's really good that you come along and explain what you're going to do. And I know for the likes of Dancy's past, it's important for landowners up there.
Definitely.
For our roading team to know fully what's going on. So it's a matter of everyone being on the same page. So that's good that you're coming along and presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, King, you have to move to the presentation. Second, hold. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against. Carried. And,
Thank you very much.
All the best for the project.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, council, our meeting. So concluded. Thank you to those who have joined us on the live stream. Was recorded, so our team's going to work on whether they can switch that on. So but it was live streamed and make it one continuous stream video. So we'll see how that all works. Anyway, thank you very much to everyone who has joined us for this part of the meeting. With that, would someone like to move to Councillor Alstein, thank you. Councillor Hopkins seconded. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. We'll now change over.